Slurpty derp, my G's. Here we are, 3 years later, still doing the exact same thing. Hope you guys like it. I've got a bit of a sniffles today, but not feeling too bad, so hopefully it won't get worse. Anyway, here's another vital tutorial. I really like this one, my G's. Big ups to Mike Briggs, in-house, #1 commenter of all time. Now, shout out to all you guys, audio artisan as well, all the YouTube squad. Yeah, if I name everyone, it's going to take forever. Anyway, this is the Renaissance flagship. It's one of my favourite ones on the Renaissance prac, the preset prac. Thank you all, everyone who bought it, because it actually had quite a nice, a nice amount of support for that one, which is really amazing. And the only reason I actually went ahead and made another Vital Pack was because someone on a Q&A live stream I did was like, when are you doing the next Vital Pack? Well, I don't know if they said it like that because it was in the chat, but I assume they went, were shouting. So that's the reason I started to do another Vital Pack again, mostly just because a lot of you guys use it still, because I'm like kind of I was really enjoying Faceplant and like the granular synthesis section with it, so I was kind of like getting lost in that, and then I sort of tricked my brain thinking this is way better than Vital, and I sort of abandoned Vital in a sense. That's the note that we want. We want to play a bit lower on this one. Obviously, with every patch, I keep them in the same. Whew, that's nice. Can it go lower? The range I designed it in was actually higher, but taking this one down an octave range is actually still pretty good, which is rare. That's sick at A. If you want to make a track at A using the Renaissance flagship bass, be my guest. But I wanted to make this video to explain it, to promote the pack a little bit one last time before I move on, and also to tell you to adjust one of the parameters that I was unhappy with. So the Renaissance flagship on the preset pack, and I'll show you it. If you haven't got the pack anyway, you can still learn some synthesis tips, so don't worry. So basically, I have this third oscillator here, which is a bit of a filler kind of oscillator. It's sort of like just thrown in there, and it's like it dirties up the sound a lot, but it's definitely better having it in. But you want to just take the level down on that one. You want to take the level down on that one to like 0.63 or something, and then it's ideal around there. Then it sounds wicked because it fills out a little part of the sound that was missing, but I had it up too high and it was sort of muddying the main part of the sound. And the reason it's muddying the main part of the sound is because these first two are modulated on an LFO2 with the pitch. So that's the main part to this sound, which is what I wanted to talk about today, is yeah, putting modulating the pitch of the oscillators quite extremely together to get this result that sounds really sick and really neurofunk and sci-fi and advanced and nice. So basically, I've just got an LFO2 with a saw down, a little bit curved, and it's 1/2, and I've tracked the oscillator 1 and 2 transpose up 12 semitones. Yeah, so it starts up 12 and goes down to 0, and it's doing it both on 2 oscillators. So we've actually got the first oscillator is a sine wave. The second one is a square wave. The pitch is slightly different, so I've sort of done one at -24, one at -23, so they're already sort of detuning a bit, but the amount of movement that they have on them is the same. Okay, So this one has got the low pass mode on. So because a square wave has like a lot of high end in, if you're sort of running out of filters, you can just put a low pass on there, and it'll it's a bit weird the way it changes to shape, but it does take out some of the high end. Yeah. So that's essentially what's happening there. If I just quickly turn off the effects, and then we can sort of go through one step at a time. So yeah, just the important things to note: a sine wave, a square wave, which is, like I said, I've changed the pitch so they're not really the same anymore, okay? But they move the same way. So once I'm happy with the way they sound on their own, sort of statically, you know, without the modulation on. So that sort of greater difference in the pitch, creating like a little bit of a faster kind of wobble. Like adjusted it slightly here as well. Okay, so once I like that, then I move them on the LFO2 in the same way, in the same amount, you know? Okay, so then this thing also has some unison on, so that's also creating more movement again. So there's two kind of wobbles going on, really. There's one in the unison and there's one between the oscillators, okay? No right or wrong answer, obviously, just trial and error. That's how I came up with the sound. Anyway, I've got this wooden texture. So yeah, Foley sound from a pack that I've had for ages. Yeah, and what I do, as you can see, is I run it through both of the oscillators. So running through the texture through both of them here. Okay, so we're still setting up the stage for the sound. All right, and next then we're going to start to filter what we've got. So I'm filtering everything, including the oscillator that's not turned on yet, and the sample, and you know, the first two on a phaser negative. So we're shaping it all together, essentially. We're sort of grouping everything that we've got and prioritizing these low mid frequencies and moving those around. So that's where you start to sort of get this combination where the sample that's going into the oscillators sort of starts to create this nice growl, like with the actual bass from the oscillators as well, you know. And now, so that's the phaser negative, also moving on an LFO, which is just a simple LFO up and down thing. There's no modulation between the LFOs happening on this patch. It's just the LFO1 is doing the sort of tonality shaping, and the LFO2 is doing our pitch movement. And so then to further increase the tonality of the sound, the interesting tonality of it is we run all of the output from this filter into filter 2. So all we got to do is select filter 1 on here, and then it's just like going into 1 and then going into 2. And again, I'm choosing to move those low mid-range frequencies. Obviously, my vital has been set, so you can see the exact frequency cutoff number here. If you haven't done that, you just go to the advanced, and you can select down here frequency units and select hertz rather than semitones, so I can see where I'm modulating on the spectrum. So here, you know, it's around 100 and something, 136 or so, and here's like 87, and it's modulating up always, you know. So that's the low end of it, the low end of the spectrum. Okay, and this one, sometimes the whole filter mix at 100% is too much. Oh, that is a much needed coffee this morning, I'll tell you that. Feels good. Had a cold shower this morning when I woke up. Pint of water, and then saved the coffee for a little bit. Sometimes I have the coffee straight away when I wake up, but I thought today I'm going to tease myself a bit. I'm going to have a cold shower first, pint of water, and then really enjoy it after that. Sit down and make a video for you guys. So that's basically my morning. But yeah, so yeah, I'm being a bit sort of slow to explain today. I realise that. Taking my time. But anyway, yeah, sometimes you don't want the mix all the way on the whole time, you know? It's not quite as dynamic. So you got to be clever in which part of the sound you want to have the filter mix turned up at and which part you don't. So just try both ways. Spin it to the left and put the LFO going up to the right, or spin it all the way to the right and take the LFO down to the left, and then you'll get like the two extremes, and then pick which one of those two extremes is the best, and then fine tune it a bit more if you need to, if you don't want it to go all the way around, you know. But that's cool. Like how cool I'm really like honing in on that tone with the growly texture at this point. So let's add in our third one here. So this is the one that's a bit of a off the wall oscillator. So it's a saw wave. So we turn it up. It kind of horribly ruins the sound, you know. But put the low pass on. It's doing something in the low mids that's sort of gluing them together a bit, even though it's kind of a bit weird and rough. But anyway, when you load up the patch in the preset pack, if you do have it, it's up quite high. So if you take that down a bit, and it sort of fills in that kind of gap that was still, well, it kind of pads out the low end a nice amount, but it doesn't start to overcrowd it like around there, you know? So do that and then save it again. And yeah, basically, yeah, what can I say? I guess we go on to the effects then, you know? So we'll move on to the macros right at the end. We're going to just one sort of controlling the speed, the dullness of the sound, and the tony, so giving it a secondary kind of version, you know? But yeah, let's move on to like enhancing the sound now. And like reverb, sometimes I want it at the beginning, sometimes I want it at the end. But when it's at the beginning, obviously you're going to run all the distortion and compression and everything through with the reverb on it, so it's going to be quite extreme. So when it's at the beginning, it's going to be pretty low, usually 5% or so. I'll just low cut it here. I find it a bit easier and quicker just to use this knob here to do to low cut the EQ. But anyway, at least we get a little tail on, even if it's 5%. Chorus, again, the voices here is 12. Like I usually stick it at 16 and leave it there, but felt a little bit tighter with a few less voices on this one. And the percent about 14 here, and also this is this is on a macro, so it's not really that important yet. But yeah, if you leave the mix up high when you're designing the chorus, so leave it up high, test out the values, the depth, the delay, and the voices. And the idea is you want to try to obviously enhance the sound. You want to give it an extra layer of sort of stereo interest, but you want it to still sound cohesive. So you've got to try and figure out how you're doing that with the mix up high and then blend it back in again. Because obviously, if you can get it to sort of gel together quite nicely with the mix up, then when you turn the mix back down again, it's going to be even tighter, you know? So just bring that back down to about, I think, where was it? 20%? I can't remember now. Somewhere around there. Then, yeah, filter. Here we're sort of, we're sort of shaping it a little bit further, but sacrificing a bit of the high end. And I haven't mixed out all of the high end. It's a low pass filter, but with the 85% kind of thing that I've got here, it's leaving some of the high end in. So there's always still a bit of a remnants of those sort of organic textures in the high end. It's just that I've shaped most of them to come out along with our filter movement. So this is on the LFO one, obviously. It's our only real kind of movement LFO, aside from the pitch ones. Yeah, so pretty simple, up and down, just shaping our sound. And then we have the beautiful distortion, which is, yeah, set to 0, but it's going on the LFO. So this is modulating alongside everything else, as you see here. So great way to get some more dynamic movement in your sound through using the distortion rather than just slamming it on everything, although sometimes I do want to do that. If I'm particularly thinking I need to try and make the sound a little bit more dynamic, why not just leave your drive at 0 and then modulate it to go up a little bit on the LFO. Okay, so this is this is really nice. Obviously testing out the different modes always. The linear fold is one that I don't always choose, but sometimes it is the best one. Okay, you can hear really how much the volume jumped up now with this bad boy on. So this is my over chaotic OTT compressor mode, where I never bother with changing these middle ones. I never bother with these ones really either. All I bother with is turning up the attack and the release down and then mixing it, you know, to get a bit of that sort of overly saturated signal to come back in. And again here, I'm also mixing this on the LFO. So it's another chance to get the sound to become more dynamic by mixing on and off this oversaturated signal aligned with our main LFO. Okay, and again, you can go both ways. You know, do you want to mix it to go up with everything else, or do you want to mix it to sort of go down while everything else goes up? You kind of just test it both ways. But yeah, because it's quite extreme setting, especially when the attack's all the way up and the release is down, because it gets really, really loud, you kind of want to be just working in this lower range here, this smaller range. It's very specific, this video. This is kind of just my my technique for vital patches, from what the little tricks and things that I've found worked for me. But yeah, that's basically that part. Yeah, obviously that adds a lot of volume and power to the sound, you know. But it only works because everything else is pretty clean up until that point. Especially with that low pass, I kind of cleaned out a lot more of the sort of messiness. So then, EQ. Here I have, it looks like I have done a bit of subtractive. Now, arguably, I could just boost this area to the left a bit here, which might be even better. So let's have a try with that quickly. So we could go both ways, really. I could boost that and then just take the amount of the OTT kind of amount down, because it really is quite a lot of of volume and power in the high end. But yeah, as you see here, originally I just thought I'd overdone it, so I sort of adjusted it here, because obviously there is this kind of spiky area a little bit around 2,700 or so, where it does kind of come up quite high. So that's why I've just tried to flatten things out there a bit, you know. Like, it wasn't really like a big hole that I needed to fill out to bring up. It was more the case that it was something that was sticking out. Like, everything else was kind of fairly flat already, and this one was just like kind of obviously sticking out a bit too high, you know. Like, I would have to have brought up the part on the right and the part on the left, so in that case I'd probably bring down that part there. Yeah, just taming a little bit of the chaos that's going on in the high end, essentially. Is there a little bit of flanging? I think just a little bit, 6%. I like using the flanger because it kind of makes the sound a little bit more natural, because it gives a bit of a weirdness to it. And if you just do it in a small amount, it's just going to take it like to a little bit more of a natural edge. Okay, that's it really. So yeah, obviously we've got the speed on the macros, which is controlling. It's a small change, but yeah, is tracked to the LFO1 rate. But the patch is kind of written to be played at that lower kind of speed anyway, so that's why I didn't want to like have a crazy speed setting on it. Then we've got the dull. So the dull is taking down the amount in which the sample comes through the oscillators, because that's what's providing a lot of the high end. So it's sort of taking down, it's pretty much only taking down that. So it's controlling how much we're FMing the sample through it, you know. So like too much of the sample coming through and you get like too many sort of harmonics that sort of destroy the shape of the sound. And yeah, like I'm using this specific sample, but really it's not so much important what sample exactly it is that you're using. You know, it's just a texture, and it's just the way that that particular texture in that specific moment in time relates with the oscillators, you know. So you don't have to have the same sample as me when you're designing it, and that won't really affect your results. You know, every result will be different, but it's how you blend them together that's the important part. It's not about the specific sample that you use. It's just, you just see it as a way to like initiate the change in the oscillator section, you know. It's just about like flicking that switch and initiating like a textural change. It's not about having the perfect textures to begin with, you know. Obviously I recommend Foley textures and things that work well in the high end, because typically you're already like doing the job of filling out the bass with like digital waveforms, you know, the saw waves, the sine waves and the square waves are doing like the job in the low end and the mids. So it's the problem is that they always sound a bit harsh and unnatural in the high end for the ear. So that's why you may as well make use of the sample section by selecting sounds which have a natural high end. That's the best advice I would give for when you're picking them, you know. So it doesn't make sense to get a low drony sine wave in your sample section because you can use that already. It makes sense to use something you don't already have, you know, a nice flowing river creek or something like that, you know, or some leaves or like a cat jumping and scratching on a fence. I don't know. And yeah, so what does Tony do here? Tony doesn't do too much. He just he's mostly just changing a couple of the parameters in the effects section. So it's distortion. Yeah, like kind of like taming the distortion and maybe boosting the compressor and boosting the chorus. It's not really, I don't know which, it doesn't really matter which way round I've done it, I guess, but the combination of which, you know, how much chorus is on, how much distortion is on, and how much of the sort of saturated compressor thing is on, kind of changes the tone of the sound in this one. It's more of a push rather than a tone change in this one, to be fair, because a lot of the times when I've done the Tony macros, it's really like completely two different sounds. But in this case, it's more of a kind of saturation control, I guess I would say, you know. Obviously the tone has changed a bit, but it's not like an extreme change. It's more of a kind of saturation or distortion drive amount change, you know. But yeah, I think that's all the bases covered. Yeah. That's the Renaissance flagship then. I think this will be the last tutorial I do on the Vital Renaissance pack, and then I'll move on to either designing some new stuff with Vital or Faceplant, or some just doing some other kind of videos about music production in general, drum and bass, synthesis, mixdown tips. Not really sure yet, but yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed that today. Thanks for watching. Peace out. Much love.